All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Ministry Revealed. It is November 15th, 2017. And yes, I am going to touch on it because as people who are watching, we need to let people know about it. I may even be revealing some information many of you haven't heard before, and that is that just not only the severe importance of November 29th coming up, excuse me, but also the things that tie into it. I mean, scriptures that tie into it, and based on the time of Jesus' death. And I've come across some really, really important things that I want to share with you guys. I believe you're going to find them really, really important as well. Quite amazing, actually. I just recently came across them, and I've been debating on doing this video. I know there's always people out there that are watching and talking about the next possible watch time. And while this, more than many, to be honest with you, more than many, this one is a super high watch time. And for the obvious reasons, which we'll get into here today, and maybe even make it a little bit more obvious with some of the other things that I'm going to talk about as well regarding 28. And, so right off the bat, what are we talking about? Well, we know on November 29th, 1947, the United Nations decided to fulfill the promises of the 1917 Balfour Declaration. All right? They voted to reinstitute the Jewish national home. Now, why is this important? Well, we're coming up on the 70-year anniversary in 2 weeks. Excuse me, literally 2 weeks from today, we're coming up on the 70-year anniversary. This is from last year, as you can see up here, right? November 29th last year. That's why he's saying 69 years in this article. And he goes on to explain the vote. He shows all the paperwork from it, retyped, to show what they voted for, who voted, who abstained. It's really quite interesting. So you can get that information. You can always copy this up here and you'll be able to find it. So that's the starting point of what I wanted to talk about today. And now we're going to jump further into this. So I believe everybody watching this video has heard of this before, has heard about the 70 years coming up. A lot of the big names have spoken about it as well. But we're now going to dig a little bit deeper. And first of all, this is a big thing for me, is where I want to get into. And you know what? This is making my computer run a lot because of all the ads on it. So I'm going to close this page off, okay? We all understand that in 2 weeks from now, Israel is going to be 70 years old based on when it was declared. We need to remember that, right? Based on when it was declared. Not necessarily when they moved in 48, right? That was when they were given their name and they moved in May 14th, okay? But again, maybe this is the time frame. So, it's a high watch. If it's not here in 2 weeks, then we're looking into early the first half of 2018. But this is a big one. This is when the decision was made and when it was declared. All right, so now I'm just going to close this off here. And it'll speed things up, hopefully. So now I go back into this. I've been talking to you guys about this for a while now. I told you we have enough evidence that the tribulation is 14 years, right? Was it Jacob, wanted Rachel, and then finds out after 7 years of work, he got Leah, who he didn't want. Then he has to work another 7 years, and he gets Rachel, right? The one who he did want. From there, we've got the 2 tribes and so on and so forth. And from, there's a whole thing to that, another whole study, which I'm not going to go into, because we had the other wives that were brought in, or not wives, but the other women that were brought in that he had children with. And that's a whole other study. But this is really important because, like I've been showing you guys, the 14 years, and when we go into, my favorite one, and I'm always going to tell you guys this because there's always new people listening. Here's the evidence, the right in your face, all of our lives evidence in 2 Corinthians 12, 2 through 4, that it's 14 years. And that the first group is like one that gets caught up. Like one means, like, see, such as one just means like being caught up. And when you read through these brackets here and you understand how those brackets are different than these brackets, because this second group is, see, was caught up. This is like one being caught up because this group goes in the spirit. This group is going to be the rapture. This is the escape. There's an escape before all craziness breaks loose and the tribulation begins. And they're going to go in the spirit, and I believe their bodies are simply going to drop dead. It'll be about the same time war will break out, and everybody's going to fall into the delusion and a lie because they're not going to realize. Everybody's waiting for the rapture. And everybody's bodies are just going to be raptured up before everything begins. And could you imagine, this is why I emphasize this on just about every video, if not every video, because there are so many people. How many millions upon millions and millions of people are waiting for the rapture? Hundreds of millions probably are waiting for the rapture, expecting the next event is the rapture of the church. And that's where they're wrong. It is not a rapture that happens first. It is a caught up. It's an escape, as Luke 21 talks about in his discourse, that Matthew and Mark don't talk about. Right? It's an escape group. This is the bride, by the way. This is the one who goes up first. So it's so important. When this happens, could you imagine the pastors that are left and the teachers and all the believers that are left who weren't watching and paying attention and weren't spending time with the Lord, who are now going to have to go through tribulation of the church the first 7 years? Right? They're going to have to die for their faith. Now, imagine that confusion. When all these people thought it was going to be a rapture, and now there's millions upon millions of people that have just died all over the place. And they're going to their pastors that are still there too and saying, what happened? What happened? I thought there was a rapture. What is this? And they'll say, oh, it couldn't have been the rapture. We know the rapture happens first. It's not going to happen first. So do you see why this is going to be such a big deal? It's going to be huge for people to understand. The first group is an escape group in the spirit. Their bodies are going to die. The second group, after the first 7 years approximately, is the raptured group. Remember, the dead go first, followed by those who are alive and remain. And then if you follow the rest of the story down here, you see Paul has come now a third time. And who is he talking to? He's speaking to the Hebrews here. All right? He's speaking to the Hebrews. The first time I came, I brought you burden when I took that other group in the spirit. The next time I came, I took your children. But this time, I'm coming for you. It's the parents that lay up for their kids, not the kids for their parents. So this time, you've already laid up for the children. Now I'm coming for you. That's why I'm here, right? He's speaking as in Jesus' term, as from the eyes of the Lord. And this is what he's saying. First time, I took that group in the escape, and I brought you burden. The second time, I came for your kids, right? The church, the believers. The third time, he's coming for the Hebrews. All right? That's what this is all about here. Read it for yourself. This is in 2 Corinthians 12. You can just read the whole thing here in 12. And once you have this understanding of who's being spoken to, and he starts off by saying above 14 years ago. Well, I can break down those 14 years for you and show how the tribulation for the church portion, the believers, the first portion, and then the second portion, and how that breaks down. Guys, there's just so much, and I don't want to go into all of that today, except to say this is what's coming first. If November 29th, this 70-year anniversary, if this is the one, this is what we're looking for. This is what's going to happen. There is going to be the escaped group of believers that are going to be going first. All right? In the spirit. Their bodies will remain. Okay? And they're going to die. They're just going to drop dead. And war is going to break out instantly. Now, how do we know? Where do I have more evidence of the fact that we're talking 14 years and change? Here's a big chunk right here. And again, now this is in Psalm 90. I like this one too. I talk about this one regularly. Right? You can go into this one and just read it all. But this is where everybody understands, well, I shouldn't say everybody understands. There's people that believe it's 40 years as a generation, that 70 years, that 100 years as a generation. Well, Psalm 90 and 10 tells us absolutely, without a doubt, here it is. There's no misunderstandings. It is right here. It says, the days of our years are 70. That's 3 times 20, 60, and 10. So that's 70 years. And if by reason of strength they be 80 years, right, 4 times 20, yet is their strength labor and sorrow. Why would it be labor and sorrow for those extra 10 years? Because it's tribulation. That's what it means. For it is soon cut off, and we fly away. Hello? Get that? So 70 years is the time frame, and if it's 80 years, then it'll be pain and sorrow, then they fly away. Well, who flies away? What's this fly away stuff about? Who's flying where after 10 years? So if it's 70 years is the days of your years, and if you're strong, but it's in labor and, in sorrow, it's almost like being an extra old person, if you will, right? But we obviously know it's not speaking of an individual person, it's speaking of a group. Okay? Then it will be 10 and fly away. Well, where's this fly away? What's this about? Well, we see it in Revelation 12, don't we? This one here is different. This is fled into the wilderness. And by the way, guys, I'm doing some research right now on this Revelation 12 sign and how, this first 2 through 6 seems I told you guys before, seems very similar to 7 through 14, right? Because they both end with a fleeing into the wilderness. They're not the same, guys. They're not the same. I had initially thought they were the same, but it's been revealed to me that they're not, and it has to do with Matthew's discourse and Mark's discourse. You'll notice it's the same thing, just like when I revealed through the Spirit, revealed it to me, that Matthew, Mark, and Luke are, and guys, I always got to clarify this for you too. All scriptures are for everybody, and there's pieces for us to take all throughout it. I understand that. But what the key that I've been given is the key to understand how scriptures are going to pertain and who they're talking to in relation to the end days, in the end times. Okay? And in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, in particular, you can see it so easily in the discourses. Why are the discourses in Matthew, Mark, and Luke all slightly different? Right? For those of you who are hearing this for the first time. Why are they always slightly different? Because they're speaking to different people. Different groups of people. Luke is speaking in pre-tribulation. He is speaking before the end begins. He's speaking in his time, right? He's speaking in this time, like the time we're in right now, right? These are the first things. These must first come to pass. But what does it say? Sorry, am I in Luke? No, sorry, I'm in Matthew. Thought that looked odd. Let's go into Luke, and you could see here in Luke, right? One for another. Master, when shall these things come to pass? See, wars and rumors of wars, wars and commotions must first come to pass. This is for everybody he's talking to. It says what? Then he said unto them. That doesn't say that in Mark, and it doesn't say it in Luke. This is Luke throwing in these words. Here, watch. I'll go right into it, and then we'll continue on with, because this does tie into what I was talking about. And we'll continue on to the explanation of 70. So, see, then he said unto them. In Matthew and Mark, you have no black letters here, and this happens twice in the discourse, where he jumps in to explain who Jesus is talking to. Why does he do that? When he already talks about it, when it's already spoken about in Matthew and Mark. Because he's telling his group that escapes, you won't have to deal with this. But this is for the other two groups. And what all of this is in Luke, All this discourse explained in Luke is Matthew's group and Mark's group. So the church is Mark, and the Hebrews for the Jews is in Matthew. And it's what they're going to go through. And I believe those times are actually separate. It's pretty crazy. I believe there's a 7-year of tribulation of church, which I've told you guys before, and a 7-year of tribulation in Matthew. Very, very important. So that's why Matthew's discourse is different sounding than Luke's discourse. They're going to be similar. They have similar things. The same thing could kick them all off. But they have different lineups of earthquakes and famine and pestilence. Well, you know what? In Mark, there's no pestilence. In Mark, and guys, check this out. This is another awesome study. I mean, you could spend a lifetime just in these guys. It's so incredible. But watch this. See, shall be earthquakes in diverse places and famines. This is after war begins. So the escape group is gone, right? Those who were found worthy to escape all these things, right? War breaks out. War in heaven may even break out at this point. That's what I believe with kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be earthquakes in diverse places, and there shall be famines and troubles. Troubles? Well, that's not what Luke said. Luke said earthquakes, famines, and pestilence. Because he was speaking as if he's addressing, because you got to remember, Luke is combining what's being said in Matthew's discourse and what's being said in Luke's discourse, speaking to both of those groups. He's letting his people know this is what they're going to go through, kind of putting it all together. And watch what, see, look at Matthew's. What comes first? Famines. Earthquakes don't come first. Matthew's group starts with famines, followed by pestilence. Well, and then earthquakes. See, why does Matthew have pestilence and Mark doesn't have pestilence, but Mark has what? Troubles. Wait till you see that word troubles. Well, can I tell you guys something? Here's a great, check this understanding out. Oh, I don't want to go into too much for you guys, but this is so awesome. I'm telling you, the Lord, I get lit up with goosebumps all the time, and that's when I know I'm on this track and just keep going. I get revealed so much understanding, guys. It's just baffling. I love it. I love it. I love it. Like I said, because of how my business is set up, I literally spend, oh man, a full work day, usually close to 8, if not at least 8 hours a day studying. I very rarely watch videos. I do watch some videos of teachers sometimes because I usually catch things in there and then I go and dig. And that's going to tie into what we're going to reveal today regarding 28. And, and then it just brings me back to more study. So, sometimes I just need a break to watch somebody's video where I'm not maybe trying to learn too much, but, it always drags me back in to the study of the Word. And, man, like I said, prior to 2 months ago, that I wasn't doing that, right? It's been the Lord just using me, if you will. Definitely using me, having given me the key and leading me in the Spirit. God is so awesome. So now watch this. Pestilence. Do we have any plagues in the first in the seals? There's none. Watch. Let's go into the seals here. And we don't have any plagues. And I've spoken in another video, and I'll do this again for you guys because this is going to go into something else. I told you the first beast, the rider on the white horse, not beast, but the rider on the white horse is the one coming to take those out, those out in the spirit. The ones that are going to be like being raptured. Not raptured, but like being raptured because it's only in the spirit. That's what this first rider on the white horse is doing. It's not all those 4 crazy bad riders. Oh, excuse me, all bringing destruction and all this stuff. That's not the case. So, let's go into the second one. So this one just says, wear a bow and a crown, conquering and to conquer. The second one, what? He's going to take, is it peace from the earth? Yeah, peace from the earth, that they should kill one another. And a great sword was given to him. So what do we have here? There's your wars. So if this is your wars at the second seal, well, what's the first one? Get it? There's a little obvious clue for you guys. Then what about the third one? And when the third seal came, what happened? It's famine, right? There's another study right here in Hurt Not the Oil and the Wine. I mean, it's crazy. It's all over the place. And then the fourth seal is what? Death and hell followed, right? To kill a fourth part of the earth, right? Over a fourth part of the earth, and to kill it with what? The sword, war, and with hunger, and with death, and with beasts of the earth. Do you see any plague there? No. Why don't we see a plague in any of these seals? Right? Then we see them under the altar. And then we have the fig tree, right? The stars fall into the earth from the great earthquake. There's the sixth seal. And no plague. So what on earth is Matthew's group talking about when it says one of their things is going to be pestilence? Do you know what it is? It's when the pit is opened up and the locusts that come and sting men. Why is that this? Because this is talking to the Hebrews, to the Jews. This is going to be their tribulation, their portion of their 7 years. This is what's going to take place. And to them, they have the pestilence. They have the plague of the locusts. The church will not get that plague. Excuse me. That's not for them. All right? Now let's see what is for Mark. This is awesome. And I promise you, I am going to go into the whole 70th year and so forth. But watch this. So one of the big differences here is what? Is the word troubles. Well, we think of Jacob's trouble and all these different things, right? And there's troubles. I mean, it's throughout the Bible everywhere. Oh, really? How about this troubles? Famines and troubles. Have you guys seen, there's a lot of great teachers that believe and know that it's going to be some sort of water event that takes place at some point in tribulation. What most people don't understand, though, is because they haven't figured out this 14-year thing, they don't understand in relation to how it's coming and how it's going to affect, because they just don't have the timing, the understanding of the timing. When you understand the 14 years, this timing window just opens up. It's amazing. But there are a lot of great teachers out there. How many people do you guys know or have you guys watched that believe there's going to be something regarding water, like massive floods, tsunamis, Pastor Jim Baker, I think he saw fire, or did he see flooding? Perry Stone has seen this big water thing happening coming on the East Coast. Who's another one? Jonathan Kleck. Jonathan Kleck has folded this money up, and you could see that it looks like a nuke is going to go off in the water off of the coast of New York, and it's going to be massive amounts of water coming through. The money also has printed on it the Hoover Dam. The Hoover Dam being destroyed, and there's another flood, right? Well, where are those two events on the money? I live in Canada, so it's not up here. But where are those two events taking place? In the United States. They're on the U.S. money, right? Folded in a certain way. You guys got to watch the Jonathan Kleck channel, the Jonathan Kleck channel, and YouTube channel. And he had a Thus saith the Lord moment. As far as I know, I believe he's only had one, and it was that the waters, the water as high as the walls of Jerusalem by the city of the sea, and he has this whole prophetic moment. And it's only happened to him, I believe, once, maybe twice, but as far as I know, I can remember only once. And it has to do with water, with New York getting not just a flood and like they've had. We're talking full on tsunami, 70 or so feet high, 7 stories high, and it would be from this nuke having gone off in the ocean and the crazy wind that will come in and follow it and just destroy and kill millions and millions of people. And he has this belief that it's kind of like at the same time, when that happens, we go, right? And for years, I've heard people say, the rapture, rapture, rapture. And suddenly these people that have spoken rapture, I've heard 2 or 3 of them just recently, including Jonathan Kleck, use the word escape, or use the, Jonathan Kleck in one of his last videos. I've been watching him for years. Out of everybody that I watch and that I've been watching on YouTube over the years, Jonathan Kleck is the consistency, the one that I watch without fail. I support his ministry, me and my wife. And, without fail, I've been watching him for almost 5 years. And, everybody's talking rapture, 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 when I've been saying it's the escape. And now, for me, it's new as well. It's only been a couple months. But it's this escape. And now Jonathan Kleck, I don't know if he watches my stuff or what, or if the Spirit's been working on him more, that he suddenly said that, oh, guys, and when this happens, our bodies aren't going anywhere. Our bodies aren't going anywhere. Our bodies are going to drop dead. And I thought, how interesting. The Lord's either revealed this to him, or he's been maybe watching some of my videos. I don't know. But that's exactly what's going to happen. And do I think, though, that the water thing is going to happen first? I don't know. I shouldn't say I don't know. I believe war is going to happen first. But could that war bring in the water that is thus saith the Lord moment had, and that's printed on the money? It very well could. However, it doesn't seem to be the progression here of these things. So, watch this. It was all that to say with water, the word troubles, I bet you've never seen this before. This is why this program here, this whole program is called, whoops, now I just did something. Shoot. Oh well. Is called eSword. And eSword, I wish I didn't do that. So eSword is this entire program here, okay? And it's awesome because you get the original Greek understanding of the words, the original Hebrew of the words. Well, now let's look at this word troubles. This is going to be mind-blowing important. I just came across this about a week ago. A disturbance that is of water. There's a disturbance of water. Look at this. The word troubles, how many times do we see trouble or troubles throughout the Bible, especially even in the New Testament? And yet it only shows it occurring twice. And the other part is it's in John, and it doesn't have this same, obviously it's related to water, but it's not in this sense. And yet here we are in this troubles here in Mark, which is for the church, for the believing church, right? For Israel, for the grafted in, for the Gentile believers, right? For the whole group. This troubles, which means water and a disturbance of water. Roiling is also part of water. I looked it up, like I said, when I found this, maybe almost 2 weeks ago now, actually. Means like disturbing the bottom of the ocean, the bottom of the water, and it muddies and dirts it all up, flying up. And that's what this word troubles means. And we have it, and you guys have it there in the U.S., printed on your money. See Jonathan Kleck's channel for that. And this troubles means water. That's amazing to me. Just amazing. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else I could do here. I don't know what I hit. I really don't like this all capitalized. I'm just going to have to deal with it for now. So, isn't that amazing? Here we are. It's on the money, and there's your troubles, and there's your water, and it's different than Matthew. It is different than Luke, right? There's a reason for it. I've shown you guys that. Now, let's go back and watch this, right? So, we have that a generation is, a generation, the years of your life are 70 years, all right? And if they be pain and sorrow, like labor and sorrow and suffering, then we fly away. Now, I was telling you guys this in Revelation 12. Well, what happens? After, what? 10.5 years? I believe it's, it says 10 years, right? That a generation, your years shall be 70. But if they be 80, they're pain and sorrow, or what was it, labor and sorrow, all right? That doesn't mean it has to be exactly 10. It could be 10 and a quarter, 10 and a half. It's 10 years and change. You'll be 10 years older. Doesn't mean exactly to that day. And you know how I can say that? Watch this. Because we know that there is approximately 14 years. Now, how do we know that? Watch this. Right back to Paul talking here in 2 Corinthians. Right? What does he say? I knew a man in Christ above 14 years ago. That means more than 14 years. Well, where else do we have evidence of this? Let's go into Revelation 7 or 8. 8? 8. Here we go. Revelation 8. At the seventh seal, right, there was silence in heaven about the space of half an hour. Right? About, above. I believe both of those are referring to the same time frame. And it brings me back to this same Psalms, or when we go into Psalm, when it says 70 years to 80 years, right? That 10-year difference, then we fly away. Well, what happens when they fly away? Right? What happens? When do they fly away? They fly away after the 10 years. Okay, 10 and a half years. Well, when do you think that is? If Revelation 12, right? When does it say that the woman flies away? Into the wilderness. When does that happen? Well, we're in Revelation 12. What's taken place already? Right? What has taken place? We're at the end of Revelation 12 here. So what goes on? This is when she what? Flies into the wilderness. She's flying into the wilderness. What happened? And we fly away. After what? 10 and a half years. Right? Approximately 10 years. 70 years. If they're 80, then after that we fly away. I believe it's 10 and a half years approximately. Why? Because then after they fly away, what happens? It's the wrath. About 3.5 years, I believe, of wrath that's going to destroy them all. Everybody that's left, it's going to rain down. Well, not destroy everybody. We know, I believe the 144,000 might be there. I'll have to double check that, but that's not where I was going today. So, then they fly away. Well, it's exactly what we heard here. And they fly into the wilderness, right? I showed you even up here, when we're in this one, when they don't fly into the wilderness, this woman fled into the wilderness, right? Why does this woman, she flees into the wilderness, where they should feed her there 1,203 days. Why say it differently? Why is it said different? Into her place where she is nourished for a time and half a time from the face of the serpent. There's a reason why it's different, guys. I'll do another video that'll explain all this. It is incredible. It is truly, truly incredible. Okay? But again, it was just to touch on it to show you this fleeing into the wilderness, to the flying away, not the flee, sorry, the flying away after the 10 years. So what is it now? We're in 2017, right? 2017 plus the about 10 and a half years that I was telling you about puts us in what? 2028. Interesting, right? Well, wait till I show you when we get into this here. What does Luke now say? Matthew, Mark, and Luke in the discourses, right? This is, again, one of those places, and he spoke to them a parable. Watch this. Let's go into Luke, into his discourse. And we'll go down to learn the lesson from the fig tree. So this is the second time right here where the black letters show up. And it says, this is Luke speaking and saying he, Jesus, spoke to them. Again, speaking to Matthew and Mark's group, letting us know he's still speaking to them. And not to my group, Luke saying, behold the fig tree. Look at that. And all the trees. Why is it for all of these years, these pastors that we listen to, why aren't we told these different variations in Matthew, Mark, and Luke? And I'm not saying all these pastors. I mean, there's a lot of them, but you've got to dig. The only real ones teaching this stuff or touching on it are the ones that are into prophecy. Most teachers, I mean, me and my family, we don't go to a church. Our kids go to private Christian school. We purposely set things up so that would happen from the very beginning. They've always been at the same school. We love the Lord. We are being blessed. We've always been blessed by the Lord, even during troubled times. Give thanks to Him in all things and for all things, right? But it goes back to, my goodness, why aren't they teaching us all these differences? Let's get into some real meat and detail with these teachers, and I'm not saying all, but it's like this general 45-minute that people go for on a Sunday, and they get fed this same stuff that just sounds nice and, tickles the ear, as the Bible says, and gives virtually no meat. Guys, you have to, and again, it's not a bash on pastors. It's believers have to take some of this into their own hands. You have to read your Bibles. This is when everything opened up for me. I was just listening to what everybody else was doing on YouTube, and occasionally searching in the Word when they were talking about things, and that was about it. Until September 28th of this year. Those who know the story. When that happened, I was in the middle of a video and something caught my attention. I went, wait a second. I'll get back to you guys on that. That was the moment the Holy Spirit was giving me the key. And it was from that moment that I've just been in the Word, in the Word, in the Word, and a little bit of video instead of all video, and a little bit in the Word. It did a 180. And this is one of those things that just made me go on the tangent, is all of these differences. Who is being spoken to? The time frame of these things so that you can understand with who's being spoken to. Explaining to people or reading the Word for yourself and paying attention to the little differences in the words. So watch this fig tree one. Behold, the fig tree and all the trees, when they now shoot forth. Watch this. Watch Mark's parable. Watch Mark's fig tree. Got to remember, Mark is now talking to the church, right? I call it the church. You know what I'm saying, okay? Talking to the church. And see, no black letters for Mark. You won't find it in Matthew either, where it's them talking. It's all Jesus talking, okay? Now learn a parable of the fig tree when her. So in Luke's it said they, this one says her. Well, what's missing here? A parable of the fig tree and of all the trees. That's what Luke said. Yet this one is just talking about the fig tree and calls it when her branch is yet tender. Well, now what about Matthew? You'd think it's the same, but it's not quite the same. Because it's speaking to a different group of people. You get it? Now learn a parable. Again, see, no black letters of Matthew talking here. All Jesus. Now learn a parable of the fig tree and all the trees. Nope. Again, just the fig tree. When his branch. See that? There's so many things hidden in these little understandings. But today, as I'm leading, I'm going here on purpose, is this generation shall not pass until all these things be fulfilled. All right? Well, what things? Everything spoken of in their discourses. Right? This generation, this group of people shall not pass until all these things begin to pass, until all these things have come to pass. And you got to pay attention. When one it'll say begin to pass, and others it'll say come to pass. So where does it all begin? See, in Matthew, for all these things must come to pass. But the end is not yet. Okay? And then where does it begin here? Boom, right here. This is the escape that happens right here. And then what? Nation rises against nation. Boom. Here is the beginning of tribulation right here, and all three discourses start the same. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. All three of them are the same. All right? This is the beginning of tribulation. But all of these things are just the beginning. See? All these things are just the beginning of your sorrows. Because what? They're going to deliver you up. You're going to be afflicted and killed. All of these things, these are all part of tribulation when we get to this part. And nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. See, and troubles. These are the beginnings of sorrows, it tells Mark's group. Take heed, for they shall deliver you up, beat you, and then you're going to be killed as well, it says for this group. And then what does Luke's group say? What does Luke say? Look how Luke puts them both together. And great earthquakes shall be in diverse places, and famines and pestilence, and fearful sights and great signs shall there be from heaven. Well, wait a second, neither of them said that. Well, look at the next verse. But before all these things, before all what things? Before all these things I just listed above, well, how do we know where to break it down? Well, because Matthew, Mark, and Luke only spoke about these. Then what? Then they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you and deliver you up to synagogues and into prisons, right? Being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. This is talking about where they get killed, and when's it going to happen? Before the fearful sights and great signs that there shall be from heaven. Okay? So all of these things are the persecutions. This is all tribulation. And guys, this I'm going to get into another, I'm going to do another video, probably still in a couple days. I want to really dig into it well, obviously. Well, you'll notice in Luke, you don't have that same abomination of desolation that it talks about, but you have it in Matthew and you have it in Mark. Just like I was saying, Revelation 12. Why is there two wildernesses both explained differently? It goes back to this Matthew, Mark, and Luke, with Matthew and Mark, each of them having their own 7-year time of tribulation. Get it? There's going to be two fleeing into the wildernesses. There's going to be a group when it's for the church that are going to realize what's going on, and at some point when it happens, they're going to run and hide. And then it's going to happen again when Satan steps foot into the temple. Once it's the temple, I believe there will be a temple in their 7-year tribulation, at their midpoint when they flee. That's the next 7 years, right? That's the midpoint of the second 7 years. Guys, I would love to just go for hours and hours and give you all these videos and tie this stuff together. The timelines, the time frames from Old Testament to New Testament, just boom, right there. It's incredible. Okay, so here we are, nation shall rise against nation. These are the beginning of sorrows. Take heed. So now, the abomination of desolation, right? They both speak differently. Let him that readeth understand. In Matthew, let him that readeth understand. And they're not explained. They're not spoken of the same. I believe there's a purpose to it. Again, it has to do with the fleeing. One flees into the wilderness, one flies into the wilderness. Psalm 90 and 10 just said they have 10 years and then they fly into the wilderness, not flee, right? Or sorry, not fly into the wilderness. It says and fly away. It didn't say and run away or and flee away. It said fly away because it's speaking to that group. That group is going to fly away after that 10 and a half year point. And the church will have theirs earlier, and I believe it'll be approximately 3 years in, approximately, when the beheadings and all that start. It might even start a little bit before that, but that's when it's going to kick in. And guys, the mark of the beast. Wow, the mark of the beast. I don't want to go into so much detail, so distant, so far off, but the mark of the beast won't be for the church, guys. It's going to be later on. I can break that down, but again, that's another video. See what I mean? This stuff just keeps coming and coming and coming. Every day that I study, I've got more connections being put together. It's incredible. So, what does it now say for all of these, well, let's go finish down Mark's, and we're still in Mark here. I know I clicked on Luke, but we're still in Mark. When it says, see, verily I say unto you that this generation shall not pass till all these things be done. Remember, it's talking to the church. So this generation shall not be done. But now, watch what Luke says. Luke says it, again, just like he did at the beginning, right at the beginning here, when he's talking about here, at the beginning how it happens, he adds in pestilence and not troubles. Because he's talking, this one here, he's talking as if to the Jews, to the Hebrews, right? This is what they're going to get in their tribulation time. This is where it's going to kick in with them, and they're going to have the earthquakes and famines as well. But they're going to get the pestilence, not the water problem. Not the water, excuse me, that's going to come. They're going to get the pestilences. That's going to be their beginnings. Okay, part of their beginnings is all this stuff. And then, what does Luke say as we go down? We see Luke says, verily I say unto you, this generation, with a capital T, shall not pass away till all be fulfilled. Till all be fulfilled. Well, that's what Matthew's, again, he uses it from Matthew's because now one was talking at the beginning, one is talking about the end. Excuse me, here, where is it? Verily I say unto you, this, capital T, generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. Right? So, this generation, where's this story in? It's in the parable of the fig tree. Right? Who's the fig tree? It's Israel. Right? Israel came back. Now, yes, it's Israel, the people, and yes, it's the Hebrews and through the Jews, when we're here in Matthew especially. And the land, though, the land is returned on November 29th, 1947. November 29th, 1947, as we saw earlier. Right? The 70-year mark is this year in 2 weeks on November 29th, right? 2017 is the 70-year mark. Do you understand the importance and the severity of this? Do you understand how this literally points better than so many other things did that we've been watching for? And then it even ends with fly away. Well, guys, why? Again, I don't want to go too far, geez, but I'm gonna go into this a little bit. They fly away, and then what? Right? They fly away into the wilderness. Well, what happens when they fly away into the wilderness? What happens at that point after the last trumpet is blown? Right? Whoops. Where's that last trumpet? Right? The last trumpet, there's the 7 seals. And there's a little scroll. There's the 2 witnesses. And then what do we have? Watch this. The 7th trumpet. What does he say at the 7th trumpet? And there were great voices in heaven saying, the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord, and he shall reign forever and ever. This is after the trumpets. Right? It's after the trumpets. There's your 10 years. And then what? And then they flee into the wilderness. Because then the wrath is coming. Right? See? Then thy wrath is coming. They know the wrath is coming. They get to flee. Boom. Now it all begins, the last approximately 3.5 years. It's all there. So what about this 28? Well, I was doing a little bit of digging, and guess what? The 28, I wasn't looking for the 28, but the 28 was something pretty amazing. The year 1928 is very significant. So Michael Rood, most all of us, if not all of us listening to my video, know this master Bible scholar. And he goes on in the video, again, just go up here, Gabriel Ainsley, blogspot.ca. This Gabriel guy wrote this book over here. But you can go on and watch this video. Here it is for you. Shock, scholar reveals Jesus did not have, and you can go into this right here. Here, I'll click on it, see if we can get more information. So it's 28 minutes, 49 seconds long, and it's about Michael Rood. I believe he's on this Josh Hawley talk show, if I remember correctly. And Michael Rood, who is an incredible biblical scholar, they with their studies, because when NASA, when they landed on the moon, they had placed these, he goes on to talk about it, but they had placed these types of mirrors, and when they came back, they were reflecting from NASA these beams back and forth, and they did that for 10 years to be able to track the times, the seasons, how everything related in the solar calendar. And with all of this, they were able to determine, I believe, when did our calendar begin? I think they initially implemented it in early records around 40 some years, give or take, I think, before year 0 here. And they can go back, Michael Rood said, and every piece of scripture, every detail, they can go back and find the days, the exact days. And Michael Rood had, based on all of the evidence and everything that he had gone through, that Jesus died on Passover 28, on the year 28. Well, isn't that interesting? This is from years ago, I believe. This is years ago. Now, this goes on. This is this guy, Gabriel Ainsley. He's got a whole thing on this, on 28, that he said the Lord had revealed to him back in, 10 years ago, 2007, 2008. And he goes into all of it and explains that if Jesus died in 28, in the year 28, well, we got to remember, guys, God is perfect. Perfect. Okay? He's perfect. So if it's 6,000 years and the 7,000th is the year of rest, right, when he brings the kingdom for the Hebrews here on earth, then wouldn't it make sense that if this is accurate, if this is correct, or at least a year or two, give or take, but let's say this one, for this talk that we're having today, that this is correct, that is the year 28 at Passover that Jesus died. Well, guess what, guys? This guy goes on to explain that is why I'm preaching the year 2028 will be the year of Christ's return. Do you see, guys, I'm just freaking getting goosebumps from this. Do you get this? Sorry, I gotta grab a drink of my cold eggnog latte, homemade. Thank you very much. It's delicious. But do you get this? So Michael Rood believes it was the year 28. Many others do believe that it was 28. Where even scholars, when you do a study, the year it's not far off from what people believe it could have been anyways, based on when he was born. All right, so it's not far off. So this guy goes on, and so do others, goes on to explain that if it's well, we know it's got to be perfect. It's going to be exactly 6,000 years. All right, when he returns. So if he's going to return in 6,000 years exactly, and it's the year 2028, that means what? Well, these guys think, well, all this stuff about Jesus returning and everything else, this guy goes into explain, and this is where he doesn't understand it, that if Jesus is to return at 2028, everybody talking about, 2017 and 2018 and this time and that time, he says, I don't even concern myself with it. Now, why doesn't he concern himself with it? I don't know if it's in here. It's another piece I was reading. He doesn't concern himself with it because he believes, well, go back 7 years only. From 2028, it'll be the year 2021 that he returns. Because they believe his return when he's coming for the church. You see what I'm saying, people? When you don't understand the 14 years, you don't get it. But does Jesus come back at the end of the 14 years? No. He comes back at the 10 and a half. He's going to bring the destruction. And I mean, guys, you could see it. I'll finish up here, and then I'll show you in scriptures what I'm talking about. And it had to do with that last trumpet, right? With that last trumpet. That's when Christ returns, at that last trumpet. Now watch. 2028, with what these people believe being the 2,000 years. Well, guys, would you mind telling me what 10 years minus 10 years is from 2028, from the year 28 to 2028 minus 10 years is 2018. However, I've told you and have shown you that it's what? About 10 and a half years. It's not going to be exactly 10 years because we have that in two places where it's above and about. Right? And I believe they're both referring to the same thing, the same time period. And here we have that 70 years to 80 years. That's why, again, if you go look into this guy's information, you read it, he says, 2021 is going to be the time. Okay. And he even talks about Psalm 90 and 10. But he still looks at 2021 because he doesn't understand the entire timeline. He doesn't understand that from 70 to 80, that entire time is tribulation. Right? Just like it tells us. So if you go 2028 to be the perfect number, and we have your 10, which is this year, November 29th, 2017, and we add the about portion, which is, say, 6 months, which would give us approximately, sometime in the spring, late spring of 2018, we have how many years left? 10 years. 2028 of tribulation. And then Jesus returns, and then he pours out the rest of that stuff. He deals with the rest of the wrath. He's the one that pours it out. Go read it for yourselves. Right? Go see when he talks about it. Where he talks about it. Right? There were in 11. Where else was it? Shoot. This font threw me off. But when you see, I think it even talks, was it in 7? Right? So in the sound of this, in the voice of the seventh trumpet, no, it's in 7. This came out of great tribulation. Sorry, give me a second here. Go on prayer, go on altar. So the 1, 2, 3, 4. No. Give me a second. Here it is. See out of the most smoke. Come on, where are you? They repented not. Oh, shoot, was it 10? Oh, sorry, it is 10. So, watch this. We have now before the 7th trumpet sounds, and it says what? Here's this angel, and swear by him that liveth forever and ever, who created heaven and all things therein, created all, the sea and everything that's therein, that there should be time no more, but in the days of the voice of the 7th angel, when it shall begin to sound, the mystery of God should be finished, as he hath declared it unto his servants, the prophets. You see that? The mystery is going to be over. Here's your 2 witnesses, right? Before the 7th trumpet sounds. And then what? Then you get the 7th trumpet. And they're all praising the Lord, right? Because his wrath is coming. And now everybody that's left is they're going to know. Satan knows too. The wrath is coming, right? That thou shalt now reward your servants and your prophets and saints, and destroy those who destroyed the earth. It's all here. This is at the end of trumpets. The 7th trumpet. All right? This is your about 10 and a half years. This is your Revelation 12, woman flies into the wilderness. This is your Psalm 90, and 10 years, 70 years to 80 years after we fly away into the wilderness is what it is. Do you guys see how this ties in? 70 years and 2028 by a highly respected Bible scholar, finding that it was the year 28 that Christ died, and you add 2,000 years exactly, and you're in the year 2028, and I've shown you guys that Christ returns after, or at the last trumpet, or just after the last trumpet, or is the last trumpet, if you will, possibly. That's when he returns. And that it's 10, like I said, 10 and a half years in. And Psalm says the same thing. And Michael Rood says 28. And this guy has a whole thing dedicated to the understanding of it. And yet they don't understand the significance of the year we're in right now because of the 10 years and the total of 14, because it doesn't include the wrath. Do you get that? It's awesome. It's amazing. Look at this. When the Babylonians, so look at this. So back in the nation of Israel was indeed reborn as if in a day after being devastated and depopulated by the Babylonians 70 years earlier. Well, what do we know? We know that everything that was shall be, and everything that shall be was, right? So if it was 70 years earlier and they come back, well, now what? Now they've come back and we're 70 years what? We're 70 years later. You see that? We're now at the 70-year later mark, and it's in 2 weeks. And if we're off and it's not this one in this 2 coming weeks, then we're looking at about Passover, which was another one of my times that I had seen anyways, which would be Passover of 2018. But do you see that window? How close we are? That window that we're in? You see what I'm saying? That 10 years, and now we got these people that don't even have this understanding, that are teaching, that have incredible understanding in Bible understanding, that get when Jesus had really died, the year of his death, that have been teaching on it, that get it, however, don't have this information that's been revealed to me, this key to unlock it, to say, not only are we close, we are within months, maybe even a couple weeks. Do you see that, guys? This is so unbelievable. It just keeps going, right? Who is the fig tree? Well, the fig tree is Israel, the land of Israel, like we spoke about. Look at that. When a branch is tender, putteth forth her leaves, you know that summer is near. It says that in all of them, right? You know that summer is near. So if this isn't the time that it's, in 2 weeks, prepare and watch for Passover 2018. Because that would be a massive one as well. Massive, massive, massive. Right? And right around there, because again, May 14th is when they started going back in, and they named themselves Israel, and they came back at that point. But they were, I believe, around there coming back prior to. So, guys, I hope this blesses you guys. I hope it gives you some greater understanding into the significance and the importance of 70 years. Right? This generation shall not pass is so, so, so important to understand. Right? The fig tree, Israel, the land of Israel, that this generation shall not pass till all of these things spoken about here in the discourse, until all of this tribulation, that's what it's saying. All of this tribulation shall come to pass. They'll all be fulfilled before this generation shall pass. And the generation is 70, and the last 10 are trouble. in sorrow. And it says, this generation shall not pass. Everybody's looking at 70 and saying, well, it's already 70, without the understanding that there's still 10 and a half. And then Christ returns. He's coming back after the trumpets. Do you get it? And then another 3.5 years, there's your 14 years when they fled into the wilderness. Do you see that? Even, look at this. Watch this. Where does Jesus end up? Where do we see Jesus? And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on Mount Zion, and with him the 144,000 are standing with the Lamb on Mount Zion. You see that? The connections are everywhere. Have you found anything that can point to disprove what I'm talking to you about? With the understanding of the 14 years, above 14 years. With the understanding of the about 10 years time frame, it'll obviously be above 10 years. And then you've got the wrath at the end of it. It's everywhere. Watch this. Watch Jeremiah 31. Watch this. Thus saith the Lord, the people which are left of the sword, those who survived after all the killings, found grace where? In the wilderness. Now, here's a great thing. I was talking to my wife about this. I understand. When we read Jeremiah 31, oh, well, that was when this happened. I get that. Like I said, all scriptures, there's importance and things that we can take out for our daily lives for all of these generations that have come and gone. Right? There's pieces for all of us to understand the Word of God. I have been given a key that reveals the understanding in relation to end times and who is being spoken to. See, again, I will build thee, and thou shalt be built, O Virgin of Israel. For there shall be a day that the watchmen upon the Mount Ephraim shall cry, arise ye, and let us go up to and let's go up to Zion unto the Lord our God, and sing unto Jacob, sing gladness for Jacob. For shout among the chief nations, publish ye, praise ye, and say, O Lord, save thy people, the remnant of Israel. It's all the same stuff there, right? When they flee, the 144,000 are out. They're with Christ. There's the other ones that are protected while the wrath is taking place. It's all there. And guys, this month, November 29th, 2017, is a very, very, very high watch time for what can come. So please share this with everybody you know. Let your pastors know. Let people that you teach, that you preach to, share this to them and show them the importance of this November. And if it doesn't happen this 29th, don't be dismayed whatsoever, because the time is so short. The next big watch is going to be, and I haven't seen how it can go beyond Passover 2018. I really don't see that. Based on everything I've just shown you, it's kind of even hard to see past the 29th, but I do take that with a grain of salt. So guys, I pray this gets to you. I pray you can see it, follow the scriptures, see what I've revealed, see how it ties all of it in. This understanding of the 14 and the 10 and the 2017 of this time to the 70 years and the 80 years of Psalm. I mean, guys, I pray this finds its way through to you. I love you guys, and I'm just looking forward to getting to go home. But we pray always, right? Luke 21:36. Pray, watch, and pray always, that you may be accounted worthy to escape all of these things that are coming upon the whole earth. All right, guys? God bless you. I love you. If you haven't given your lives to Christ, He is the way, the truth, the light. He is the only way. Please, if you have any questions, let me know. Leave me comments. I'll be happy to get to all the ones that I can. With that, God bless you guys. We'll talk to you soon.